Hey there. Tonight we're going somewhere hotter, louder, and far smellier than you've imagined. Welcome to ancient Rome, roughly the year 120 AD. Before you get comfortable, maybe dim the lights, grab a drink of clean water, something a Roman would have killed for, and settle in. Because once this story begins, you'll realize exactly why you wouldn't survive a single morning here. You open your eyes to darkness. Not peaceful darkness, but the kind that smells faintly of smoke, sweat, and last night's garum, that beloved fish sauce the Romans dump on everything. Your bed, if we're being generous, is a lumpy straw mattress crammed into the corner of a cramped insula apartment. The ancient version of a budget Airbnb without walls, plumbing, or safety regulations. The straw scratches your back, something bites your ankle, and from the next room you hear a neighbor coughing up half a lung. Congratulations, you've survived the night. Barely. The air feels heavy, thick with soot drifting up from the oil lamps that burn rancid olive oil. Somewhere below, someone's shouting, a baker, probably, cursing an early rising mule. The city never really sleeps. Even before sunrise, carts rumble across the cobbled streets, iron wheels clattering loud enough to shake dust from your ceiling. You mutter something resembling a prayer to any god still listening. After all, there are plenty Jupiter, Mars, maybe even Cloacina, the goddess of the sewers. You'll meet her soon. You try to sit up, but your spine protests. The bed is uneven, and the air is cold. Not refrigerator cold, you've never seen one, but the damp chill of stone and mildew that crawls straight into your bones. Your tunic, what you slept in, clings to you. Sweat dried hours ago, leaving a crust of salt on your skin. A single threadbare blanket slides off, releasing a small cloud of dust and something suspiciously alive. You blink toward the window, a hole covered with oiled linen instead of glass. Pale light leaks through, along with the aroma of the city. Smoke from charcoal braziers, rotting vegetables, animal waste, and human waste, all layered into a bouquet that could peel paint. If you're lucky, the wind blows the other way today. You're not lucky. Your apartment sits 4 stories up in an insula that sways like an aging ship in a storm. These buildings rise fast, cheap, and deadly. A stray spark and the whole block goes up like kindling. Fires are so common that even the emperor occasionally loses sleep over them. Not that he lives here. He's in marble palaces on the Palatine Hill while you live above a tavern that doubles as a public restroom after dark. You stretch and crack your neck. The noise wakes a rat, which scurries across the floor and disappears under a broken tile. You tell yourself it's fine, that it's just part of city life. Everyone has rats. The senators do. The priests do. The rats, frankly, are doing better than you. You stand. Your feet touch the floor, which is damp. Not from rain. The neighbors above you like to empty their chamber pots out the window. You pretend it's water. It's not. Somewhere, a rooster crows. Not in the charming farm way, but like it's announcing another round of human suffering. You rub your eyes, stretch, and tell yourself it's time to face the day. Or rather, to survive it. Because in ancient Rome, mornings aren't about fresh coffee and quiet meditation. They're about noise, stink, labor, and the constant possibility of stepping in something that used to be someone's breakfast. Before you head out, you reach for the small oil lamp on the crate that passes for a nightstand. You light it carefully. Fire safety is mostly a suggestion here. Shadows crawl up the walls, revealing cracks, cobwebs, and a small shrine. 2 clay figurines of the Lara's familiars, household spirits who, if you're nice, might stop your ceiling from collapsing today. You whisper a thank you. You can't afford incense, so you burn a crumb of stale bread instead. Smoke curls toward the ceiling and mixes with the city's haze. You hope the gods are merciful. They won't be. And with that, your morning in ancient Rome officially begins. You're tired, itchy, already dirty, and you haven't even left the apartment. Outside, 10,000 other souls are waking in 10,000 other crumbling rooms, each ready to squeeze another day out of this empire. Bread, wine, sweat, and superstition, the four elements of Roman survival. Welcome to Rome. You've got about 3 hours before the city decides to kill you. You're up, somehow, and that's already an accomplishment. The average Roman day begins before dawn, not because anyone loves mornings, but because the city demands it. Work starts early, water runs out fast, and sunlight is your only clock. There's no snooze button, only the sound of shouting vendors below. You shuffle toward the door, still half asleep. The hinges creak, and a puff of warm air hits your face. Part smoke, part humanity. You take a deep breath and immediately regret it. Rome smells like Rome, a cocktail of fish sauce, sweat, dung, and ambition. Bathing or pretending to. Let's talk about hygiene. You want to freshen up, right? Good luck. There's no bathroom in your insula. Water doesn't climb stairs. You've got a cracked clay basin in the corner filled with yesterday's grayish water. One rinse away from becoming soup. You splash a bit on your face. It's cold. It doesn't help. Soap? Luxury. Instead, Romans use strigils, little bronze scrapers. You rub oil on your skin and scrape off the dirt. It's effective if you don't mind the faint scent of olive mixed with despair. You use the same rag for days, maybe weeks. It's fine. Everyone stinks. Smell here is democratic. You think about going to the thermi, the public baths, but that's for later in the day when you have money and tolerance for being naked next to 50 strangers in cloudy water. Right now, you settle for wiping your armpits and hoping Jupiter appreciates the effort. Wardrobe of the damned. Next, you get dressed. Dressed might be too generous a word. You pull on your tunic. One piece of rough wool that scratches like sandpaper and smells faintly of goat. There's no underwear. You tie it at the waist with a frayed rope that used to belong to your neighbor's laundry. Shoes? If you have any, they're worn leather sandals. If not, you walk barefoot, dodging shards, excrement, and disappointment. Romans pride themselves on virtus, strength, toughness, grit. You've got plenty of grit. Most of it between your toes. If you're wealthy, you'd have linen, perfumes, even a slave to brush your hair. But you're not wealthy. You're barely solvent. Your hair gets a quick finger comb, and that's that. Congratulations. You're now socially acceptable by Roman standards, meaning you're less filthy than the guy next to you. The call of nature. And now, the moment of truth, nature calls. In modern times, this would be a private affair. In Rome, it's a spectator sport. You grab your chamber pot, a cracked clay bowl in the corner, and do your business. The smell? Immediate. The relief? Temporary. You carry it downstairs, 5 flights, each step slippery with who knows what, and dump it into the open gutter running through the street. If you're polite, you shout, "Cave canum! Watch out!" Before tossing. No one listens. The street splashes anyway. Somewhere below, a man curses you in perfect Latin. You curse back. That's Rome. Everyone's angry, everyone's awake, and everything's disgusting. If you're feeling fancy, you might visit a public latrina. Picture a long stone bench with holes carved in a row. People sit shoulder to shoulder, doing their business while gossiping about politics or chariot races. There's no privacy, no partitions, just eye contact and shared misery. Toilet paper doesn't exist. Instead, there's the tersorium, a communal sponge on a stick, rinsed between uses in a bucket of vinegar water. You hope the last person was considerate. They weren't. You leave feeling unclean, vulnerable, and newly aware of every germ that's ever existed. Breakfast of champions. Barely. You're hungry. You imagine bread, cheese, maybe olives. Reality laughs. Breakfast, ientaculum, is not a feast. It's survival. You grab a hunk of yesterday's bread from a street stall. is hard enough to build with. You dip it in watered wine because water alone is unsafe. The bread softens slightly, enough to chew without losing a tooth. Maybe there's a smear of cheap olive paste if the vendor's generous. Children chew on dates. Laborers sip thin wine and mutter about the price of grain. Everyone's pretending this counts as nourishment. The baker's oven rumbles nearby, glowing orange. You smell ash, yeast, and faint sweetness. It's the best thing you'll smell all day. Street symphony. Rome is awake now. The sun hasn't fully risen, but the streets pulse with life. Vendors shouting, dogs barking, donkeys braying, pots clanging. You hear the metallic ring of a blacksmith, the creak of cart wheels, and the cries of beggars already setting up by the fountain. You step outside, shielding your eyes. The street is narrow, lined with cracked stone and open drains. Children dart past, chasing each other through puddles of things you don't want to identify. The smell hits you again, stronger this time. You gag, then keep walking. Above, laundry flaps like surrender flags. A woman pours water from her window, or something that isn't water. You sidestep instinctively. You're learning. As you walk toward the forum, the heart of the empire, one thing becomes clear. Every sense you have is under attack. Your ears ring from noise, your nose surrenders to the stench, and your eyes water from the smoke rising from 1,000 fires. This isn't the Rome of marble statues and heroic speeches. This is the Rome that wakes before dawn, scratches its lice, and trudges through filth just to see another day. And the sun hasn't even risen properly yet. You step into the waking veins of Rome, where the city begins to pulse and throb like a living beast. The cobbled street beneath your feet is uneven, cracked, and slick with things best left unnamed. Every sound echoes off the stone walls. Sandals slapping, shutters slamming, distant shouting. Somewhere, a rooster crows again, long past its cue. The first wave of the day is already moving. Bakers, water carriers, slaves with baskets balanced on their shoulders, all threading through alleys just wide enough for 2 donkeys to pass if one of them walks sideways. The smell of charcoal smoke and frying onions mixes with something acidic, something human. You try breathing through your mouth. It doesn't help. Rome has a flavor. Morning market madness. You turn a corner and hit the Macellum, the morning market. It's chaos wrapped in stone. Vendors shout like they're auditioning for tragedy, hawking bread, olives, fish, and anything else that hasn't spoiled yet. Panis calitus, fresh bread, yells one man, holding a loaf that looks about as fresh as a mummy. Another waves a fish, its eyes cloudy, its smell apocalyptic. You nod politely, then gag. There are no food safety laws here. Fish sit in the sun, meat swarms with flies, and the cheese on display has a personality of its own. You pass a stall selling garum, the Roman condiment made by fermenting fish guts in salt under the sun. The vendor pops the lid off a jar to show you, and a small demon of stench crawls out and slaps you in the face. People love this stuff. They pour it on everything: bread, beans, even fruit. The rich have imported versions spiced with pepper and herbs. You, a humble citizen of the lower classes, can barely afford the kind made from sardine scraps. You keep walking, trying to blink away tears. The slave parade. A commotion up ahead catches your attention. A small crowd gathers near a raised platform. You push closer, curiosity outweighing good sense. It's a slave auction. Men and women stand under the early light, eyes empty, bodies dusted in chalk. Wooden tags hang from their necks listing their skills: cook, cleaner, tutor, dancer. The auctioneer bellows prices as though he's calling livestock. A nobleman with a purple-bordered toga inspects a young man's teeth like he's buying a horse. Another buyer pinches a woman's arm to test her strength. You look away uneasy. In Rome, Slavery isn't a horror. It's infrastructure. 1 in 3 people is enslaved. They build the roads, raise the children, cook the meals. To question it would be madness. To escape it, impossible. Still, the sight lingers. Somewhere a mother is sold. Somewhere, a child is crying for someone already gone. You move on, blending into the restless tide of people who've learned to stop looking. Bread and bureaucracy. The crowd thickens as you near the forum. This is where business happens, and by business you mean shouting. Senators in gleaming togas debate loudly on marble steps. Street preachers rant about omens and gods. Lawyers argue cases for men too rich to show up. You catch snippets of gossip. The emperor is raising taxes again. A famous general has offended the gods. Someone swears they saw a comet last night. Always bad news. Rome runs on rumor as much as coin. Nearby, a line snakes around a granary. People clutch baskets, waiting for their daily grain allowance. It's part of Rome's cura annoni, free bread for citizens. Without it, there would be riots. Even with it, there often are. You get in line. The man behind you mutters about corruption. The woman ahead complains about ration cuts. When it's your turn, the clerk hands you a small portion of flour and a look of disdain. You thank him anyway. Sarcasm isn't a currency he accepts. The street performers and pickpockets. With your grain secured, you wander on. Musicians line the streets. A man with a lyre. A woman singing mournfully. A boy beating a drum like it owes him money. The music is haunting, but the real rhythm of Rome is the chatter of the crowd. Pickpockets weave through them like dancers. One brushes your sleeve, another your coin pouch. You catch a glimpse. A thin boy with quick eyes, quicker hands. You clamp your pouch tighter and glare. He smiles. You know you'll lose eventually. Everyone does. A beggar limps by, shaking a cup. His leg is gone below the knee, replaced by a wooden peg. He mutters blessings and curses in the same breath. You drop in a coin out of pity or guilt, maybe both. He nods without looking up. Nearby, a tooth puller advertises his services by waving a bloody pair of tongs. Painless, he yells. No one believes him. The heat and the hum of survival. By now the sun has climbed high enough to light the city in golden cruelty. The heat bounces off stone walls, thick as breath. You're sweating through your tunic, your sandals stick to the ground, and the smell of the Tiber River, that sluggish brown artery of the empire, hangs in the air like a dare. Rome is alive, yes, but it's a feverish kind of life. Every corner hums with struggle. The poor fight for bread, the rich fight for power, and everyone fights the flies. You pass a group of laborers carrying bricks, their backs bent like bows. Another crew patches a wall that will probably crumble again by next week. Rome isn't built in a day. It's rebuilt every day, because the city itself seems to be trying to collapse under the weight of its own magnificence. You wipe your forehead, squint toward the forum's gleaming marble columns, and realize something. The glory of Rome looks better from far away. Up close, it's loud, filthy, and exhausting, and you've only made it to mid-morning. A stranger calls. Just as you consider retreating for shade, someone calls your name, or rather, the Roman equivalent you've been using. It's your neighbor, Marcus, a potter with arms like tree trunks and a temper to match. He's grinning, which means trouble. "Ah, friend," he booms. "Help me carry some jars to the Subura? You'll get a drink for your trouble." You want to refuse, but you can't. In Rome, favors are currency, and you're already broke. You sigh, adjust your tunic, and follow him through the crowd toward one of the most dangerous districts in the city. Somewhere behind you, a temple bell tolls. The gods are watching. You hope they're amused. You follow Marcus down the winding streets, deeper into the underbelly of the city, the Subura, Rome's most infamous district. It's where ambition sleeps beside poverty, and where every alley smells like sweat, smoke, and sin. The main streets are just wide enough for a donkey cart, but the side alleys twist like intestines, each darker than the last. You've heard the rumors. Thieves, prostitutes, beggars, fire traps. The sort of place senators pretend doesn't exist, until they sneak here after dark. Marcus doesn't seem to care. He hums a bawdy song as he balances 2 clay jars on his shoulders. You take one, feeling its rough weight dig into your skin. It's warm, still soft from the kiln. One wrong move and it'll shatter like your social standing. The smell of the Subura. The Subura hits you like a wall. The air is thick, not just humid, but alive. Smoke from charcoal fires mingles with the stench of garbage and rotting food. A butcher hacks meat in the open air, blood dripping into a gutter. Kids run barefoot through the filth, laughing. Someone's cooking lentils. Someone else is vomiting nearby. You can't tell which smell is winning. You step over a puddle of something viscous and unidentifiable. Don't look down, Marcus advises. You do anyway. Mistake. Life in the lower floors. Most of the people here live in insulae, apartment blocks taller and more unstable than yours. The lower floors are for the lucky few who can afford stone. The top floors? Kindling with windows. If the building catches fire, and it will, the people up there are trapped. Through open doorways, you glimpse cramped rooms lit by flickering oil lamps. Families huddle together, eating bread, arguing, laughing. A mother washes her child in a bucket of gray water. A man sharpens a knife by the door, humming tunelessly. In one room, a woman is giving birth, her cries echoing into the street. No one stops to help. It's just another sound in the city's endless orchestra. Street temples and tiny gods. At a crossroads, you pass a tiny lararium, a household shrine set into a wall. 2 small statues of Laura's, guardian spirits, stand beside an offering of bread and wilted flowers. Someone has drawn a crude phallus in chalk next to it for good luck. Rome's sense of the sacred is flexible. Marcus stops and tosses a crumb toward the shrine. For the spirits, he mutters. You do the same because in Rome it's never wise to offend a god, even a minor one. There are hundreds, each with their own department of human misery. The goddess Cloacina watches over the sewers. Cardea protects door hinges. Even the threshold has its own deity. The Romans live in a constant negotiation with the divine, as if the whole world is one long customer service complaint. Taverns and temptations. You reach Marcus's destination, a tavern, or what passes for one. The sign above the door shows a crudely painted jug. Inside, it's dim, smoky, and loud. Men in tunics sit hunched over wooden tables, drinking watered wine and shouting about chariot races. The floor is sticky. The smell, indescribable. Marcus drops his jars behind the counter, nods to the owner, and waves you over. Come 1 cup. You earned it. You sit. The wine arrives in a chipped clay cup. The sour, thin, and lukewarm. It also might be vinegar. You drink anyway. Tell me, Marcus says, you hear about the fire near the Esquiline Hill? Burned half the block. They say it was started by a lamp knocked over during a fight. He laughs. Typical. Rome's always burning. Keeps the gods warm. You smile weakly, but the idea chills you. Fire is the city's constant threat. With wooden walls, straw roofs, and open flames everywhere, it takes just one spark for the whole neighborhood to vanish. Entertainment, Roman style. Outside, a crowd gathers around a street performer. A lanky man balances a jug on his head while juggling knives. The crowd cheers. A boy beside him mimics a senator's pompous walk, drawing laughter. Another man beats a drum, singing an off-key ode to Bacchus. you realize something strange. Even here, surrounded by filth and hunger, people laugh. They find ways to make joy from the scraps of life. Maybe that's how Rome survives. Not by conquering nations, but by enduring mornings like this with grim humor. A child tugs at your sleeve, selling clay amulets shaped like phalluses. For luck, he insists. You hand him a coin not because you believe, but because you need any blessing you can get. The shadows behind you. You and Marcus part ways near a butcher's stall. He's heading home, but you still have errands. As you turn into a narrow alley, you notice the city's tone has changed. The shouts are quieter here, the air heavier. You're being watched. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot movement. 2 figures lingering by a doorway. Street thieves. You quicken your pace. They follow. You grip your coin pouch, heart pounding. You duck into a crowd, weaving between vendors and carts, trying to blend in. The thieves vanish, or maybe they're just waiting. Either way, you don't look back. Welcome to the Subura, where the line between survival and danger is as thin as your coin purse. The return to sunlight. When you finally step out onto a wider street, the relief is physical. The sun hits your face, the noise floods back, and you breathe easier, or at least as easy as the air allows. You've survived the Subura. For now. Ahead, the Forum gleams in the distance, marble and majesty rising from mud. It's like stepping out of a nightmare into a painting. Rome's contradictions, all in one glance. Beauty built on misery, power balanced on poverty. Your stomach growls. You realize it's still morning. You've been awake for just a few hours, and already you've seen half of human history in miniature. Faith, filth, laughter, fear. And the day hasn't even begun to get cruel yet. By the time you leave the Subura, the sun is fully awake, painting the city in gold and grime. You squint against the brightness as you cross into the open space of the Forum Romanum, the very heart of the empire. It's magnificent, yes, towering columns, marble statues, temples that gleam like they were carved from light. But the real marvel isn't the architecture. It's the sound. The Forum doesn't hum. It roars. You've walked into the belly of civilization. Every voice, every echo bounces between the stones like trapped bees. The pulse of power. This is where Rome breathes, loud, chaotic, and political. Senators in pristine white togas stand in clusters, debating with grand gestures that make you wonder if they rehearse. Each one speaks as though the gods themselves are the audience. Nearby, lawyers swarm the basilica, shouting cases before impatient magistrates. The air is thick with Latin legal jargon, self-importance, and sweat. Scribes scratch on wax tablets. Messengers run from one end of the plaza to another, carrying orders, rumors, and threats. Every corner seems to hold a transaction. Coins, influence, promises. You watch a man bribe a city official with the subtlety of a parade float. The official pockets the coins, gives a solemn nod, and walks away with the air of divine righteousness. Rome may have gods, but it worships power first. The voices of the streets. Not all voices here belong to senators. At the edges of the Forum, the vox populi, the voice of the people, cries out in a less polished tone. Street philosophers rant about fate and freedom, their words bouncing between marble pillars and stray dogs. A Stoic speaks calmly about the virtue of endurance. No one listens. A priestess of Vesta, draped in white, passes with 2 attendants. People step aside. She's sacred, untouchable. A living symbol of Rome's purity, though you can see the exhaustion in her eyes. Beside the Temple of Saturn, a beggar with no legs chants praises to Jupiter for a few coins. You toss him one, partly out of pity, partly out of superstition. You can't afford to anger a god, even secondhand. A whiff of the divine. You drift toward a shrine. The air is thick with incense and the low murmur of prayer. Inside, a priest slaughters a lamb on a stone altar. The blood runs into a basin, steaming in the sun. The crowd watches with reverence and mild nausea. You whisper a silent prayer to Fortuna, goddess of luck, that she might smile on you today, or at least not frown too hard. Someone beside you mutters, "Luck favors the rich." You turn and see an old woman selling laurel wreaths. Her face is cracked like clay, her eyes bright. But sometimes, she adds, it pities the poor. Buy one. You do. The wreath smells of crushed leaves and dust. She smiles, showing gums where teeth used to be. "Now you look like a poet," she says. You're not sure if that's a compliment. The Emperor's shadow. Suddenly, a commotion ripples through the forum. People turn. A group of soldiers in gleaming armor march past, clearing a path. Behind them comes a carriage, gold-trimmed, carried high on wheels that crush dust like bones. The Emperor himself isn't inside, not today, but his envoy is. The crowd bows anyway. You follow suit because not bowing is a death wish disguised as bravery. As the procession passes, the air thickens with reverence and resentment. Some shout blessings, others spit once the soldiers are gone. The Empire inspires both awe and exhaustion, often in the same breath. You wonder what the Emperor eats for breakfast while half the city gnaws on stale bread. You'll never know. People who ask questions like that don't stay around long enough to tell the story. The Great Fire Drill. Just as you start to leave, the air shifts. A strange sound beneath the city's noise. The low crackle of fire. Then a shout. Then another. Ignis. Fire. Panic spreads faster than the flames. People drop what they're carrying, rushing toward the smoke curling from a nearby alley. In Rome, fire is an old, hungry god that never sleeps for long. You run with the crowd. Someone shoves a bucket into your hands. You join the human chain, passing it down from the fountain. The water sloshes out before it reaches the blaze, but everyone keeps throwing anyway. More ritual than rescue. The flames lick up a wooden awning, sending black smoke into the sky. You cough, eyes stinging. The heat feels alive, a beast breathing down your neck. The Vigiles, Rome's fire brigade/police force, finally arrives, shouting orders. They hack at the burning timber, soak walls, and curse the gods with impressive creativity. After what feels like hours, the flames shrink to smoke. The crowd disperses. You stand there, face smeared with soot, hair singed, heart hammering. Another day, another near disaster. The city exhales, for now. The aftermath. You lean against a column, watching the last plumes of smoke twist into the sky. A boy runs past, laughing, carrying a charred piece of wood like a trophy. You envy his energy. Beside you, a merchant mourns his ruined stall. "Third time this year," he mutters. "Maybe I should sell water instead of wine." You give a half smile. "Safer market," you say. He doesn't laugh. The scent of burnt wood clings to your clothes. The forum, still busy, moves on as if nothing happened. Rome doesn't stop for fire, famine, or gods. It just keeps going. You realize something as you look around. The city doesn't belong to anyone. Not to emperors, not to gods, not even to its people. It belongs to its chaos. And somehow, everyone's learned to live inside it. The hunger returns. Your stomach interrupts the thought with a loud, pitiful growl. The fire might be out, but your hunger is not. You glance toward a food stall near the Temple of Castor and Pollux. The cook is frying something in oil that's seen better centuries. You hand over a few coins for a pulse, a thick porridge made of grain, herbs, and regret. Tastes like punishment, but it's warm and it's food. As you eat, the city buzzes around you, alive, relentless, ancient. For a moment, you almost forget the filth, the danger, the exhaustion. Almost. Then a fly lands in your porridge. You sigh, "Welcome to Rome." By now, the sun has climbed high above the rooftops, beating down with a merciless glow. The marble buildings reflect it like mirrors, and the streets shimmer with heat. You wipe sweat from your forehead and keep walking, your sandals slapping against the stone like a metronome for misery. It's late morning in Rome, the city's busiest, loudest, and most dangerous hour. Everyone is either working, arguing, or pretending to do both. Labor, Roman style. You reach the workshop where you earn your living, if you can call it that. The place is a forge, a cramped cave of smoke and noise wedged between two taller buildings. The air inside feels like breathing through a wool blanket that's on fire. Your master, a short man named Publius, greets you with his usual warmth. You're late. You're not. Time in Rome is flexible. The sun tells it and the sun lies. Still, you nod and get to work. You hammer nails, mend hinges, and shape metal tools. Each strike rings through your skull. Each breath fills your lungs with soot. The rhythm of your work matches the pulse of the city. Harsh, relentless, necessary. Every so often, a wealthy client arrives, waving his hands dramatically as he complains about his chariot wheel or broken lock. You fix it while he brags about his latest feast, his villa, his slaves. You nod politely and wonder what it would be like to have soft hands. The sound of survival. Outside, the city hums like an overworked machine. Carpenters saw, vendors shout, and carts creak down the streets. The clang of your hammer joins the chorus. Rome runs on sweat. Every arch, every column, every coin was made by someone like you, invisible hands beneath the empire's marble mask. At noon, the heat becomes unbearable. Publius waves a hand. Break. He doesn't say lunch. That's too optimistic a word. Lunch in the gutter. You step outside and find shade beneath a cracked archway. Lunch prandium is simple. The same coarse bread you had this morning, dipped in watered wine. The bread is dry, the wine is bitter, and the street smells like a latrine. A food vendor shouts nearby, "Hot sausages, cheap fish stew." The smells are tempting, but you know better. The last man who ate stew here spent the night praying to every god in the pantheon and lost. You tear your bread slowly, letting your thoughts wander. You imagine yourself as a Roman senator, reclining on cushions, eating grapes from silver trays. Then you look down at your dirt-covered tunic and laugh softly. Reality always wins in Rome. Gossip and grime. Across the street, a group of workers sits around a jug of wine, trading gossip between gulps. You recognize one of them, Lucius, a mason who claims to have worked on the Colosseum. "Did you hear?" he says, lowering his voice. "They caught a man bad-mouthing the emperor yesterday. The Praetorians dragged him out of the tavern by his hair." Someone snorts. "What did he say?" Lucius shrugs. "Doesn't matter. In Rome, saying anything gets you in trouble." You nod quietly. It's true. The walls here have ears and sometimes eyes. You've learned to keep your opinions sealed behind your teeth. The wrong word can shorten your lifespan more effectively than plague. The whispering wine. The jug makes its way around the circle, and someone offers you a sip. You take it. The wine tastes like vinegar and ashes, but it's cool. More importantly, it's communal. The conversation drifts from gossip to absurdity. Whose landlord is cheating him, whose wife is unfaithful, which gladiator is sleeping with which senator's mistress. Rome runs on stories. Everyone tells them, everyone denies them, and everyone listens anyway. Then, inevitably, someone mentions the games. "Big show coming this week," Lucius says, his grin revealing a gap where a tooth should be. 10 pairs of gladiators, real blood. The emperor's treating it like a festival. Someone cheers. You don't. You've seen the Colosseum once. The heat, the noise, the animals tearing men apart. It's less entertainment, more controlled chaos. Rome's way of reminding people who really owns their lives. You stare at your cup, the wine trembling slightly in your hand. Do they still make the losers clean up afterward? You ask. Lucius laughs. If they're lucky. Afternoon heat and hollow hope. The wine settles in your stomach like a stone. You stand, stretch, and glance up. The sun is blinding. The streets shimmer as if melting. Dogs pant in the shade. The stones themselves radiate heat. You think about going home, but remember the rent collector. Better to stay working than face him sober. Back at the forge, the afternoon drags on. You hammer, breathe smoke, and lose yourself in repetition. There's comfort in the noise. It keeps you from thinking too much. A brief escape. When the workday finally ends, Publius tosses you a single coin. For your trouble. 'Tis barely enough for food, but you nod and pocket it. Complaining only earns a lecture about how lucky you are to have work at all. You step into the cooling streets. The sun has started to dip, painting the city bronze. The noise softens slightly, but Rome never truly quiets. You drift toward a tavern. You tell yourself it's for dinner, but really, it's for distraction. The evening tavern. The tavern smells like smoke, sour wine, and roasted chickpeas. It's crowded, dock workers, potters, slaves, all crammed together, laughing too loudly, drinking too fast. You find a seat and order the cheapest option. A bowl of lentils and a cup of wine diluted beyond belief. The lentils are mushy, the wine almost clear. You eat slowly, savoring the illusion of fullness. At the next table, a storyteller stands on a stool, gesturing wildly as he recounts a tale of Caesar's ghost haunting the Senate. The crowd roars with laughter. You smile. In Rome, history is entertainment, and the truth is optional. The whisper that freezes the room. Then, somewhere in the laughter, a voice says quietly, "The emperor's losing his mind." The room falls silent. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then, as if nothing happened, the noise resumes. Louder this time, almost forced. The man who spoke stares into his cup, realizing too late that some things in Rome should never be said out loud. You catch his eye and look away. Survival here isn't about strength. It's about silence. The walk home. When you finally leave the tavern, the air outside is cooler, the sky deep purple. Torches flicker along the streets, casting jittery shadows on the walls. You walk slowly, your steps echoing through narrow alleys. Somewhere, someone's singing a soft, tired tune about gods and wine. Somewhere else, a baby cries. Life in Rome, endless, layered, indifferent. You reach your insula, climb the rickety stairs, and pause at your door. You can still hear the city murmuring outside, distant laughter, a shout, the rattle of a cart. It's comforting in a strange way. You lie down on your straw mattress. Creaks. The smell of smoke clings to your hair. Your eyelids grow heavy. You've survived another part of your Roman morning, though it already feels like a lifetime. And as you drift toward uneasy rest, the city hums on, alive, unbothered, eternal. When the first streaks of daylight brush the rooftops again, the city is already awake. Word has spread. Today there will be spectacular. Games in honor of a local deity whose name most people have forgotten but whose festival no one wants to miss. Bread and spectacle. That's Rome's favorite breakfast. The procession of faith. You follow the noise toward the forum, drawn by drums and chants. Priests march in white, carrying incense and gilded images of the gods. Behind them trail dancers, acrobats, and a few half-drunk flute players. The crowd presses close enough to smell the sweat beneath the perfume. At the front, a bull trudges toward the altar, garlanded with flowers that can't quite hide the fear in its eyes. The priest lifts a knife, murmurs a prayer, and the crowd falls silent. A quick motion, a gush of red. Cheers. The sacrifice is complete. You flinch. The man next to you crosses himself and tosses a pinch of salt onto the stones for luck. You realize, again, how much the Romans need their gods. They pray before eating, before bathing, before sneezing. Life here is so fragile that faith is less devotion and more insurance. The march to the arena. By mid-morning, the crowd surges toward the Colosseum. You join them, partly curious, partly swept along. Vendors line the way. Figs, wine, sausages, trinkets shaped like lions. Children wave wooden swords, pretending to fight. Even the beggars smile. A festival means generous pockets. The Colosseum looms ahead, colossal and merciless. Its stone arches glare down like the eyes of an old beast that's seen too much. Inside, the air buzzes with expectation and the metallic tang of fear. You squeeze through the gate, find a spot in the upper rows, and look down. Morning entertainment. The beasts. The sand below glitters in sunlight, golden and cruel. Trumpets blare. The first act begins. Hunters in leather armor release a dozen animals. Wolves, boars, even a bear dragged in from the northern provinces. They snarl and pace, confused by the noise. The crowd cheers, chanting names. A gate opens, and a condemned criminal stumbles into the arena, unarmed. You look away, but the sound tells you everything. The crowd loves it. It's quick, ugly, and loud. When it ends, attendants rake the sand smooth again, as if erasing memory itself. You feel the bile rise in your throat. Someone behind you laughs and bites into a fig. The midday pause. Between events, vendors climb the stairs selling bread and cheap wine. You buy a cup. It tastes of copper and smoke. The sun blazes directly overhead, turning the marble seats into ovens. A few people faint, revived with water splashed in their faces. No one leaves. The announcer shouts the names of the next fighters. The crowd's roar shakes dust from the rafters. You wipe sweat from your brow and wonder what kind of god demands entertainment like this. The duel. Two gladiators enter, saluting the crowd. One is a Murmillo heavy armor, helmet with a fish-shaped crest, sword gleaming. The other a Retiarius, bare-chested, armed with a net and trident. They circle each other under the brutal sun, muscles gleaming with oil and dust. The fight is not graceful. It's desperate. You can hear the grunts, the clash of steel, the hiss of the crowd. When the Retiarius traps his opponent's arm with the net, the arena erupts. The Murmillo falls, sand spraying. He raises a trembling hand, begging for mercy. All eyes turn to the editor of the games, a nobleman in white robes. He pauses for effect, then gestures downward. The crowd shouts as the sword falls. A cheer, a sigh, the trumpets again. You sit frozen, heart hammering. The man next to you claps your shoulder, grinning. "Glory to Rome," he says. You nod because anything else would be dangerous. The afternoon shadow. After the last duel, the crowd begins to spill out, talking excitedly, already hungry for the next festival. The streets outside are clogged with noise, arguments about who fought best, who should have lived, which god favored whom. You walk quietly, head down. The spectacle has left a taste in your mouth that no wine can wash away. The city feels heavier now, as if the stones themselves carry the echo of the screams. The gods in every corner. On your way home, you pass a small shrine. A woman kneels before it, pressing her forehead to the ground. She whispers the same plea over and over. "Forgive us, protect us, forgive us." A child plays beside her, drawing shapes in the dust. You drop a coin into the offering bowl and keep walking. Somewhere behind you, thunder mutters. Maybe the gods are listening. Maybe they're just bored. Evening falls. By the time you reach your quarter, the sky is red, the color of the sand in the arena. The city exhales. Merchants closing stalls, children herded inside, the smell of cooking drifting from windows. Life goes on because it must. You sit by your window, watching torches flicker across the rooftops. In the distance, the Colosseum glows faintly in the fading light, still hungry. You think of the crowd cheering, the priest's knife, the laughter that followed death, and you feel the strange calm of exhaustion. Rome believes in spectacle, feeds on it, and you, just like everyone else, have survived another day by watching someone else not. You close your eyes and whisper a short prayer, to no one in particular, that tomorrow's blood won't be yours. You're back in your tiny insula room, just starting to think about rest when the wind begins to moan through the narrow alleys. Then a flash, bright, quick, and the thunder follows close behind. It's going to rain, real rain, not the thin drizzle that teases and vanishes. You feel a small flicker of relief. Maybe it will wash away the heat, the smell, the memory of the arena. Then the first drops hit your roof. Plop, 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 and you remember your roof leaks. You grab a cracked clay pot and place it under the drip. A rhythm starts, uneven but constant. The air cools slightly, bringing the scent of wet dust and smoke. Outside, someone laughs. A nervous sound, and shutters bang against stone walls. Rome is preparing for the storm like a living thing curling into itself. When the heavens open, the sky splits open. Rain lashes the city in sheets, pounding tiles, flooding gutters. Thunder rolls over the hills like angry gods waking from a nap. You peer through the window. The streets are already rivers of mud. But this isn't the modern world. There are no drains, no gutters worth the name. The stormwater carries everything with it. Scraps of food, animal waste, broken pottery, even the occasional unfortunate rat, all rushing downhill toward the forum. The alleys echo with curses. People shout to save their laundry, their firewood, their chickens. A woman next door yells at her husband to move the roof beam before it collapses. The city, so proud, so powerful by daylight, suddenly feels as fragile as clay. Lightning over the temples. You catch a glimpse of lightning behind the Capitoline Hill, striking dangerously close to Jupiter's temple. Superstition seizes the neighborhood instantly. Someone shouts that it's a bad omen. Another claims it's Jupiter angry over today's blood spilled in vain. The air thickens with fear. Rome isn't just a city of power. It's a city of belief. And belief is volatile. Soon, you hear the priests chanting in the street, torches sputtering in the rain, trying to calm the gods. Bells ring from the temples. People open their doors, throw offerings, bread, oil, coins, into the street as the water sweeps them away. It's chaos, ritual, and survival all blended together. The collapse. Then, a sound you'll never forget. A deep crack, followed by screams. One of the old apartment buildings at the end of your alley gives way under the storm. The wooden beams, soaked through, snap like kindling. The top floor collapses into the one below, and dust billows up through the rain like smoke from a dying fire. You rush out, feet sinking into the muck. The street is alive with people shouting names, dragging debris, trying to reach trapped neighbors. There are no fire brigades, no trained rescuers. Just hands, ropes, and desperation. You help where you can, pulling planks, coughing on dust. You glimpse the body of a man half buried, his hand still gripping a jug of wine. Someone drapes a cloth over him. Life and death here share the same space, always have, always will. The aftermath. By the time the rain slows, the city looks drowned. Candles flicker from windows, reflected in puddles like small suns. The wrecked building steams in the damp night air. People murmur prayers. Others just stare, exhausted. A neighbor, An old woman with eyes sharp as broken glass mutters. Rome stands on luck and lies. One day, both will run out. You're not sure if she's warning you or herself. Returning home, you stumble back to your room, soaked to the bone. The rain still taps the roof softly, the storm's rage spent. You light your oil lamp, watching the flame tremble. Your bed, if you can call it that, is damp, your blanket heavy with the smell of mildew. But it's a place to lie down, and that's enough. As you close your eyes, the city hums around you. Water dripping, dogs barking. The faint sound of someone singing through a wall. You realize something strange. Even in disaster, Rome never truly sleeps. It just changes rhythm. The storm was not a tragedy here. It was a reminder. The empire might rule the world, but it still can't control the sky. The calm after. By dawn, the streets will glisten. The city will pretend nothing happened. The dead will be buried, the broken beams replaced, and life will resume as though the gods never shouted at all. You'll wake up to another day of work, another round of noise, hunger, and awe, because in Rome, surviving one more morning is victory enough. Morning returns to Rome wrapped in steam. The storm has washed the streets, but not the smell. Still, the city feels renewed. The dust tamped down, the air sharp with the scent of wet earth and smoke. You wake with your spine screaming and your legs heavy from yesterday's chaos. There's only one cure Romans trust for exhaustion, grime, and existential dread. The public baths. The pilgrimage to cleanliness. You step into the street and join the flow of humanity heading toward the Thermae. The grand communal bathhouses that double as gyms, libraries, social clubs, and rumor mills. There's no modesty here. Every class of Roman, senator, merchant, slave, walks in the same direction, towel slung over shoulder, gossip on tongue. The largest bathhouses, like Caracalla's or Diocletian's, could hold thousands, but even the neighborhood balnea are marvels of engineering. Arches, marble, mosaics, heated floors, and the constant rumble of furnaces below ground. As you approach, the air thickens with humidity and the tang of burning olive oil used to feed the fires. You pay your entry fee, a copper coin, and hand your clothes to an attendant who barely glances at you. Don't worry, theft is common, so he might sell them before you finish your soak. The ritual begins. Inside, you pass through the apoditorium, the changing room, where naked men strut like peacocks and discuss politics as if modesty were treason. The sound is overwhelming. Splashes, laughter, shouts, the scrape of strigils, curved metal tools used to scrape dirt and sweat from skin. A slave smears you with olive oil, not out of kindness, but to help loosen grime. The scent is earthy, almost comforting. Then, using the strigil, he scrapes your back until the oil turns gray with the filth of labor, dust, and last night's smoke. It's equal parts exfoliation and exorcism. The skin stings, but you feel lighter, cleaner almost. The tepidarium, warm awakening. You move into the tepidarium, the warm room, to acclimate your body. Steam curls from heated marble benches. The heat seeps into your bones, easing pain you didn't know you carried. Men lounge like contented lizards, discussing grain prices and scandalous affairs in the same breath. Two men nearby argue about the emperor. One praises his reforms, the other mutters that he's just another fool wearing a laurel crown. Their voices rise until an attendant reminds them of the rule. No politics in the baths. They laugh and toast each other with watered wine instead. It's hard to tell if Romans ever stop performing. Even naked, they pose. The caldarium, the inferno of purity. Next, the caldarium, the hot room. The temperature hits you like a fist, suffocating, the air thick with vapor and sweat. The marble floors gleam wet, and every breath feels like drinking fire. You find a seat near a wall vent and try not to faint. Around you, men are sweating out their sins, groaning as though reborn. Someone pours water onto the brazier, and the hiss echoes like a snake. The heat opens your pores, and for a brief moment, you feel suspended between pain and pleasure. A baptism in steam. But beware, the bathhouse isn't just for cleansing. It's for spying, scheming, seducing. Deals are struck in whispers behind pillars. A senator slips a note to a merchant. Two lovers vanish behind a curtain. The bathhouse is Rome in miniature, beautiful, corrupt, intoxicating. The frigidarium, the shock of survival. Finally, you stagger toward the frigidarium, the cold pool. You dip a foot, and it's like plunging into eternity's ice. Every muscle contracts in protest, but there's no turning back. You dive. The water hits like 1,000 knives. You gasp, eyes wide, heart pounding. The pain turns to clarity. For a brief, holy second, you feel alive. Not as a peasant or foreigner or cog in Rome's machine, but as a being of blood and breath. You surface, shivering but awake. The noise around you fades into a low hum. You've survived the Roman bath. Congratulations, you're cleaner than most emperors ever were. The aftermath of purity. You dry off with a rough linen cloth. An attendant offers perfume oil, a mixture of myrrh and rose, to mask the scent of humanity. You dab it on your wrists, pretending not to notice that the towel smells like someone else's sweat. Outside, the sun is high again, glinting off the marble columns. The world feels sharper, brighter. You've been scoured by heat, chilled by water, and polished by ritual. Rome demands that you shed yesterday's dirt, even if it's only to replace it with tomorrow's. As you walk away from the baths, you feel paradoxically clean and contaminated. Because here's the secret. In ancient Rome, cleanliness wasn't about purity. It was about participation. Everyone shared the same oil, the same strigils, the same water, and therefore the same invisible contagions. But you don't care. You're shining, glowing, alive. You survived another Roman morning, one steam cloud at a time. The bathhouse fades behind you, and the warmth lingers like a fading dream. The sun is now high, stabbing the marble streets in pale gold. Rome hums, the great animal of the empire stretching awake for another day of triumph and toil. For a moment, you forget you're supposed to be miserable. For a moment, it feels like living here might be survivable. But then you remember what you've seen, what you've smelled, what you've endured. The morning in Rome is beautiful, yes, but beauty here is cruel. It demands a price, the noise that never ends. The streets are fully alive now. Vendors shout over each other, selling everything from figs to fish sauce. Carts rattle over cobblestones, wheels creaking, slaves straining at their ropes. The city's heart beats too fast, always on the edge of fever. From somewhere nearby, a trumpet calls the start of a military parade. You see soldiers marching in tight ranks, faces blank, armor shining. The sound of their feet is rhythmic, hypnotic. The crowd cheers, not for these men, but for what they represent. The machine of Rome, relentless and eternal. You think of the fields you saw earlier, of the peasants breaking their backs for bread. You think of the slaves cleaning vomit from the stones, the senators sipping imported wine while plotting someone's downfall. Rome is order built on chaos, peace built on punishment. The noise doesn't stop. It never stops. The gods are watching. You pass a small shrine wedged between two shops. A flickering oil lamp burns beside a weathered statue. Maybe Mercury, maybe some forgotten household deity. The old woman tending it glances up and whispers a prayer, one hand on her chest, the other on a loaf of bread. Romans live in constant negotiation with their gods. Every action is a transaction. A sacrifice for safety, a coin for good luck, a prayer for mercy. Religion isn't faith here, it's insurance. You toss a crumb into the fire and murmur something you hope sounds reverent. The smoke rises, curling into the sky where the gods live, or maybe just dissipating into the smog. Either way, it's gone. And you realize, so are you eventually. Everyone is in Rome. The empire eats its children. You stop to rest beneath an olive tree near the market. A slave boy runs past, chased by a man with a whip. No one intervenes. Justice here is simple. Whoever holds the stick is right. Across the street, a noblewoman rides by in her litter, carried by 6 sweating men. She's fanning herself lazily, oblivious to the effort beneath her. That's Rome in a nutshell. One person's luxury balanced on 10 people's exhaustion. You watch her disappear into the crowd and wonder if she's happy. Then you remember, in Rome, happiness isn't the goal. Survival is, and you're already on borrowed time. The smell of empire. By midday, the city's scent has returned to full strength. The baths didn't save you. They never do. The combination of sweat, dung, cooking fires, and perfume blends into something uniquely Roman. A smell that is equal parts glory and decay. It's strange how it grows on you. The first whiff made you gag. Now it feels almost comforting. Familiar. Like the scent of a monster you've decided to befriend. The streets shimmer in the heat. The marble temples glow. Somewhere in the distance, a slave sings as he works. A low, mournful tune that drifts through the air like a ghost. You realize you're hearing Rome breathe. And if you listen closely enough, you can almost hear it whisper. Everything ends, but I don't. The final reflection. You sit down on a stone step, your body aching, your skin still prickling from the bath. Around you, life roars on, unstoppable, indifferent, magnificent. And in that moment, you understand what makes Rome terrifying. It's not the cruelty, not the filth, not even the gods. It's the sheer audacity of its endurance. Rome doesn't care if you survive the morning. Rome will. If you're a peasant, you'll die nameless. If you're a noble, your name might echo for a century before it too fades. The city absorbs everything. Your sweat, your prayers, your bones, and turns it into marble. You can't survive a morning in ancient Rome because Rome doesn't need you to. It only needs your labor, your fear, and your awe. The closing scene. The sun tilts westward, shadows stretching long and thin across the stones. Bells toll in the distance, calling the faithful to midday offerings. A warm breeze drifts through the city, carrying with it the smell of bread, incense, and smoke. You rise, slowly, carefully, your muscles stiff. You take one last look at the city that has both repulsed and enchanted you. The empire that crushes its people and still somehow inspires them. As the noise fades, your eyes grow heavy. The streets blur. The marble melts into mist. The hum of Rome becomes a lullaby, low, eternal, relentless. You survived the morning. Barely. Sleep now, traveler. Rome will still be here when you wake.